When we talk about letting go of someone without pain, we're touching on one of the most universal, yet most intimate experiences of the human condition. Carl Jung taught us that romantic suffering is not just about the person we lost, but about the unintegrated parts of ourselves that we project onto the other. It's as if, when we fall in love, we hand over pieces of our soul for someone else to carry, and when that person leaves, we feel as if a part of us has been torn away. Napoleon Hill, in his wisdom about the power of the mind, complements this Jungian view by showing us that our dominant thoughts shape our emotional reality. When we become excessively attached to someone, we are actually feeding mental patterns that keep us prisoners of an illusion, the illusion that our happiness depends entirely on the presence or approval of another person. The first step to letting go without pain is to understand that unhealthy attachment is born from fear. Fear of abandonment, fear of loneliness, fear of not being enough on our own. Jung called these complexes, constellations of psychic energy that form around unhealed emotional wounds, usually from childhood. When we meet someone who awakens these complexes, it's as if a dormant part of us awakens, but in a dependent and needy way. The pain of letting go, then, isn't really about losing the other person, but about confronting these wounded parts within us. It is the moment when we are invited to reclaim the pieces of our soul that we handed over for someone else to take care of. This process, though initially uncomfortable, is actually an invitation for healing and personal integration. Napoleon Hill teaches us that we can reprogram our minds through the conscious repetition of new thoughts. When we apply this to detachment, we begin to replace thoughts of lack and dependency with affirmations of completeness and self-love. It's not about denying the pain, but about transforming it into fuel for growth. The key is to recognize that true love, whether for ourselves or for others, cannot coexist with possessive attachment. Love liberates, while attachment imprisons. When we truly love someone, we want them to be happy even if that doesn't include our presence. When we truly love ourselves, we don't need constant validation from others to feel whole. This awakening of consciousness is painful because it forces us to abandon the fantasy that we are halves looking for our other half. Jung invites us to embrace our totality, to integrate both our light and dark aspects, so that we can relate to others from a place of wholeness, not of need. The journey of detachment, therefore, is also a journey of individuation, the process by which we become who we truly are, not who we think we need to be in order to be loved. It's a path back home to ourselves. Jung introduces us to a revolutionary concept, the shadow. This is the part of us that we reject, deny, or simply do not recognize. In the context of relationships, our shadow often manifests through the patterns we repeat unconsciously. Have you ever wondered why you're always attracted to the same types of people? Why the same painful dynamics repeat in different relationships with different faces? The answer lies in unconscious projection. When we don't integrate our shadow, we tend to project it onto others, especially those we fall in love with. If we internally carry wounds of abandonment, we unconsciously choose emotionally unavailable partners. If our shadow carries repressed anger, we are drawn to people who express that anger destructively. It's as if our psyche is trying to show us something important through these repetitions. Napoleon Hill teaches us about the power of mental habits. Our thoughts create deep neural grooves like running water, forming ravines in the earth. When we repeatedly think, "I am not enough," "I need someone to complete me," or "I can't be happy without this person," we are strengthening mental patterns that keep us trapped in cycles of emotional dependency. What's fascinating is that, according to Jung, what we most admire or what most irritates us in someone are aspects of ourselves that we don't recognize. That man who fascinates you with his confidence may be mirroring the confidence you haven't developed in yourself. The one who irritates you with his emotional coldness may be reflecting the coldness you deny having. True detachment begins when we stop looking in others for what we need to develop in ourselves. Hill offers us a powerful tool, conscious autosuggestion. Instead of feeding thoughts of lack, we can deliberately cultivate thoughts of abundance and completeness. I am whole in myself. I have everything I need within me. I am worthy of love, starting with my own. When we repeat these affirmations with emotion and conviction, we begin to rewrite the unconscious programs that keep us trapped. But here's the crucial point. It's not about suppressing the pain or pretending it doesn't exist. Jung always emphasized that what we resist persists. The pain of detachment needs to be honored, felt, and integrated. It is a disguised teacher, showing us where we still need to grow, where we are still wounded, where we still need to apply self-love. The process of individuation that Jung describes is precisely this: becoming conscious of the unconscious patterns that govern our lives. When a relationship ends or we need to let go of someone, we are being invited to look at the mirrors that this person offered us. What did they awaken in you? What aspects of yourself did they mirror, both positive and negative? True emotional freedom comes when we stop holding others responsible for our happiness or unhappiness and take on the role of protagonists in our own journey of healing and growth. In Jungian psychology, there is a process called the alchemical opus, the transformation of lead into gold, which symbolically represents the transformation of our deepest wounds into wisdom and inner strength. Letting go without pain does not mean an absence of suffering. It means the alchemical transmutation of that suffering into something precious: self-knowledge, compassion, and genuine self-love. Napoleon Hill talks about the importance of having a definite purpose in life. When we are emotionally dependent on someone, our purpose becomes that person, their approval, their presence, their happiness. But what about your purpose? What about your dreams that were put on the back burner? What about the extraordinary woman you are, independent of any relationship? The alchemy of detachment begins when we redirect the energy that was being invested in obsessing over the other person toward cultivating ourselves. Jung observed that we often fall in love with the very energy we project onto the other. That intensity, that passion, that capacity to love deeply, all of that is yours. It has always been yours. The person was just the catalyst that awakened these qualities in you. Hill teaches us about the power of creative visualization. Instead of visualizing romantic scenarios with the person we want to forget, we can redirect this creative energy to visualize the woman we want to become. What would it be like to wake up every day feeling whole and satisfied with yourself? What would it be like to live without the constant anxiety about what the other person is thinking or feeling? What would it be like to have so much internal emotional abundance that you could love freely without attachment, without fear of loss? The Jungian process of individuation invites us to embrace what he called the sacred marriage, the union of opposites within ourselves. Our masculine side, animus, with our feminine side, anima. Our strength with our vulnerability, our independence with our ability to love and be loved. When we integrate these opposites, we no longer need to look for in others what we already have within ourselves. The pain of detachment, seen through this alchemical lens, becomes a process of distillation. Just as the alchemist heats and cools metals repeatedly to purify them, we go through cycles of pain and healing, of contraction and expansion, until what emerges is a more refined and integrated version of ourselves. Hill talks about the importance of controlling our thoughts, but Jung reminds us that we also need to honor our feelings. The perfect synthesis happens when we apply Hill's mental discipline to avoid getting lost in obsessive thoughts, while using Jungian wisdom to welcome and integrate the emotions that arise in the process. There is a crucial difference between suppressing pain and transforming it. To suppress is to push it into the unconscious, where it will continue to influence us destructively. To transform is to bring it to consciousness, feel it completely, and then consciously choose how we want to respond to that experience. The woman who emerges from this alchemical process is not someone who doesn't feel pain or who never falls in love again. She is someone who knows that her essence, her happiness, and her worth do not depend on external factors. She is someone who can love deeply precisely because she is not afraid of loss, for she knows she can never lose what truly matters, herself. Napoleon Hill discovered something revolutionary. Our subconscious mind does not distinguish between reality and vivid imagination. It simply accepts and manifests what we consistently feed it through our dominant thoughts. When we apply this knowledge to the process of detachment, we understand that much of our pain comes not from the situation itself, but from the stories we tell ourselves about that situation. Jung complements this view by showing us that many of these stories are archetypal, universal patterns that humanity has been repeating for millennia. The damsel in distress, waiting to be saved by the prince, the woman who sacrifices herself for love, the belief that without the other, we are incomplete. These are ancient scripts engraved in the collective unconscious that we assume as personal truths without question. The first step to emotional reprogramming is to become aware of these automatic scripts. How many times a day do you think about this person? What kind of internal dialogue takes place? I wonder if thinking about me. If I were different, maybe. I can't live without him. Each of these thoughts is a drop of fuel thrown onto the fire of painful attachment. Hill teaches us about the principle of substitution. We can't simply stop thinking about something, but we can replace destructive thoughts with constructive ones. When the urge to check that person's social media arises, we replace that action with something that nourishes our soul. Reading an inspiring book, exercising, calling a true friend. But Jung warns us about something important. We can't just think positive and ignore the deep wounds. True reprogramming happens when we combine mental discipline with deep emotional work. It's like treating a wound. First, we need to clean it and care for it, then we can apply the bandage. The Jungian concept of holding the tension is fundamental here. It means staying in the discomfort without fleeing to old patterns, without seeking immediate relief through self-destructive behaviors like chasing the person, seeking immediate replacements, or numbing ourselves with addictions. It is in the tension between what was and what can be that genuine transformation happens. Hill talks about the importance of writing down our goals. In the context of detachment, this translates to clearly defining who you want to become after this experience. Not just I want to forget so-and-so, but I want to become a woman who loves herself unconditionally. I want to develop unshakable confidence in myself. I want to create a life so rich and meaningful that it only attracts people who complement me, not complete me. Hill's autosuggestion technique gains a Jungian dimension when we practice it not just mentally, but physically. Our body holds deep emotional memories. When we affirm, "I am enough," we need to breathe that affirmation in, feel it in our chest, let it echo in every cell. This is how we reprogram not just the mind, but our entire being. Jung discovered that our dreams are letters from the unconscious, showing us what needs to be integrated. During the process of detachment, pay attention to your dreams. They might reveal aspects of the situation that your conscious mind hasn't yet perceived, or symbolically show the path to healing. Emotional reprogramming isn't about becoming insensitive or cold. It's about developing what Jung called the transcendent function, the ability to stay centered regardless of external circumstances, to respond to life from your essence, not from your wounds. Carl Jung teaches us that the human psyche is governed by polarities, light and shadow, masculine and feminine, conscious and unconscious. In the context of romantic detachment, one of the most important polarities we need to integrate is between love and freedom, between connection and autonomy. Society has conditioned us to believe these forces are opposite, but Jung reveals that they can coexist harmoniously when we understand their true nature. Napoleon Hill identified that one of the greatest causes of human failure is the lack of a well-defined self. When we get lost in codependent relationships, we literally lose touch with our authentic identity. We start to shape our tastes, opinions, and even dreams to please or keep the person by our side. The process of detachment then becomes a journey of rediscovery. Who are you really when you're not trying to be who the other person wants you to be? Jung observed that we often fall in love with people who represent aspects of ourselves that we haven't developed. If you feel drawn to dominant men, it might be because you haven't yet integrated your own inner strength. If you seek creative partners, perhaps it's because you don't honor your own creativity. True detachment happens when we stop looking in others for what we can develop in ourselves. Hill talks about the power of the mastermind, the energy that arises when two or more people unite in harmony for a common purpose. In the context of self-development, you can create an internal mastermind by integrating all your facets: your wounded inner child, your wise woman, your warrior, your lover, your creator. When these parts of you are aligned and working in harmony, you become magnetic in a completely different way. The Jungian concept of enantiodromia, the tendency of things to turn into their opposite, is profoundly liberating when applied to detachment. The intense pain you feel today can transform into deep gratitude tomorrow. The emptiness that seems unbearable can become a sacred space for something new and extraordinary to flourish. The feared loneliness can reveal itself as a nurturing solitude where you finally meet yourself. Hill teaches us the importance of turning defeats into victories. Every relationship that ends, every necessary detachment, every no we receive from life is an opportunity for inner strengthening. Jung would say they are initiations, rites of passage that take us from one level of consciousness to a higher one. The integration of polarities happens when you can keep your heart open, feminine receptivity, while maintaining your clear boundaries, masculine strength. When you can love deeply, connection, without losing your identity, autonomy. When you can be vulnerable, openness, while maintaining your dignity, self-esteem. Jung discovered that the process of individuation inevitably leads us to what he called the self, our most authentic and integrated essence. When we touch this place within us, we experience a completeness that doesn't depend on external factors. It's not that we stop desiring companionship or love, it's that these desires arise from a place of abundance, not of lack. The rebirth of the authentic self is like a butterfly emerging from its chrysalis. The process is uncomfortable, sometimes painful, but the result is the ability to fly. You develop an unshakable confidence in yourself, an ability to love without losing yourself, an inner strength that doesn't depend on anyone's approval. Hill reminds us that our thoughts materialize through consistent action. Jung adds that this action must be aligned with our deepest nature. When we stop acting out of fear, fear of being alone, fear of not being loved, and start acting out of love, self-love, love for life, love for our journey, everything changes. We arrive at the culmination of this transformative journey, where Jung and Hill meet in a powerful synthesis, the understanding that detachment is not the opposite of love, but its highest expression. When you truly let go of someone without pain, it's not because you stopped loving, but because you learn to love in a completely new way, a way that liberates instead of imprisons, that nourishes instead of drains, that honors instead of possesses. Napoleon Hill discovered that our subconscious mind works relentlessly to materialize our dominant thoughts. When your dominant thoughts become, "I am a whole and fulfilled woman," "I deserve a love that uplifts me," "I choose relationships that complement me, not complete me," you literally reprogram your romantic destiny. You stop attracting relationships based on neediness and start magnetizing connections based on mutual abundance. Jung shows us that true, mature love happens between two individuated people, two people who have done the inner work of integrating their shadows, knowing their patterns, and embracing their wholeness. When you no longer need someone to feel whole, you can finally choose to be with someone because you want to, not because you need to. This conscious choice changes everything. The mastery of detachment manifests in small, everyday moments. It's when you think of the person without feeling that pang in your chest. It's when you can sincerely wish them happiness, even if it doesn't include you. It's when you realize that the song that was yours is now just a beautiful song. It's when you look back and feel gratitude for what you experienced, without resentment for what didn't work out. Hill teaches us that success in any area of life requires persistence and mental discipline. Healthy detachment does too. There will be moments of emotional relapse, days when you miss them badly, times when you'll catch yourself checking their profile on social media. This is normal and human. The difference is that now you have tools. You breathe consciously, redirect your thoughts, remind yourself of your personal growth goals, and connect with your essence. Jung observed that what we do not integrate within ourselves tends to manifest in our outer world as destiny. When you fully integrate the lessons this relationship brought you about your patterns, your wounds, your strengths, your deepest desires, you stop repeating the same painful cycles. You break ancestral patterns, heal generational wounds, and become a living example that it's possible to love and be loved while maintaining your personal integrity. The new way of loving that emerges from this transformation is revolutionary. You love without anxiety, without the constant need for confirmation. You express your feelings without fear of rejection, because your self-worth doesn't depend on the other person's response. You set healthy boundaries without guilt, because you understand that true love respects each person's individuality. Hill talks about the importance of having a burning desire, a desire so ardent that it moves mountains. Transform your experience of detachment into that burning desire, the burning desire to become the most authentic, loving, and fulfilled woman you can be. Use all that energy that was invested in obsessing over the other person and channel it into creating the life of your dreams. Jung reminds us that the process of individuation is a continuous cycle. Every relationship, every detachment, every new phase of life offers us opportunities for growth and integration. You are not healing yourself to never feel pain again or to never fall in love again. You are developing the ability to navigate the waters of love with wisdom, courage, and dignity. Letting go without pain is not insensitivity, it's mature sensitivity. It's the ability to feel deeply without getting lost in the feeling. It's loving intensely without clinging possessively. It's the freedom to be completely yourself in any relationship, knowing that if someone can't love you that way, they are simply not the right person for your journey. You have reached the end of this journey not as someone who got over a relationship, but as someone who found herself through it. This is the true alchemy of love, transforming every experience, even the most painful ones, into the pure gold of inner wisdom.